My name is Dr. Padi Ayertey. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist specializing in minimally invasive surgery, hysteroscopy. Somebody says uterine surgery, fertility treatment and IVF, and a special interest in the management of PCOS. I work at Elimas Health, which is a specialist facility, and our main focus is in women's health. One of the interesting things that we have, when I started doing fertility work, I was a bit concerned that the bulk of my patients, when they came, were in their older years, 38, 40, 42, 45, 50, and they say they want to have a child. And I was wondering, I said, where are all the young women? Which doctors get the young women? Then I speak to other doctors, and they all tell me, oh, they are also having the same problem. So we discovered that we are having more and more women who are trying to have childbirth later and later. And then when you ask them why, they give you all kinds of reasons. But one of our biggest concerns has become that people are trying to have children at the time when they should actually be stopping having children. And due to life choices and circumstances, they are postponing childbirth when they shouldn't be postponing childbirth. Funny thing is that most women think that they can have children all the way till they are 50. And it comes as a shock when you tell them that you've been losing your eggs since you were 18, and by 35, your chances of getting pregnant again are slim, and by 40, very slim. And this is a natural progression. You lose eggs every day, and the numbers go down, the quality goes down, and women, we need to find a way to communicate that for women to understand that the biological clock is real. So that's what they say and what really is. What they say usually is that, oh, I want to have a good standing financially before I have a child. Or I want to have my master's or my PhD before I think of settling down to have a family. When they are 35, 40, they tell you that, it's the men. No, the men are not there. The narrative changes when they are older, because by that time they've got the masters, they've got the PhD, and they are still having challenges relationship-wise. And then they say, oh, it's the men. The men are not there, or the men are not good. But that is what they say. However, there's a way around it, and I guess with time, more and more women will come to the realization of the fact that everything depends on what your priority is. You can always do a PhD. You can always do a master's. You can't always get a good husband. And you can't always have a child. Oh, that's what I was just describing is the choices that they make. You choose to put education above starting a family. You choose to put having a career above starting a family. You choose to, I want to have a patient very lovely lady. And whenever we tell you that, sweetie, your egg quality is dropping, but you have pretty good numbers. Let's focus on having, a baby. She's like, I still want to enjoy a few more solo holidays first before I have that responsibility of having a child. And this is somebody who I care about very much. So we keep having this conversation. Charlie, let's do something about it. Oh, then she's telling me about her plans to do this or her plans to do that. It's not a problem if you decide you don't want to have a child. I don't think it's a problem. I don't think anybody objects to the fact that you've chosen not to have a child. We respect your wish and we'll support you. But if that is not your choice, having children must be something that should be purposeful, planned for. And unfortunately, the pressures of the modern world doesn't encourage that kind of planning. And that is why we face the challenges and the regrets. Preconception counseling is available. If you walk into any hospital to see a gynecologist or a fertility expert that, hey, I'm considering having a baby in future and I would like to discuss my options, my plans, and how I can ensure that I'll be ready for it. That is the planning step, which unfortunately doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that you're trying to have a child now. It means I want to know what I need to do to preserve my fertility, to ensure I'll be in good shape by the time that time comes, to know the optimum time I should be able to have a child, and then to plan appropriately for it. There are some people that will examine you and tell you you've got time. You've got another 3-4 years, no problem. There are some people who will examine you and tell you within 6 months, please make an effort now, because the bill that you are going to face if you don't succeed now is going to be very big. By 28, you should have all those answers. I know a lady at 20 years who has gone into premature ovarian failure. Her ovaries are gone. I know a lady who had a child when she was 22. By 29, she was menopausal. Menopausal at 29. I know a lady who had a child at 14, got married to the same person she had that child with subsequently, and as at 40 still hadn't had a child. So it's not like something different happened along the line. By 40, hadn't had a second child. I know people who are menopausal at 32, at 36. There are so many women who come to the clinic and they are maybe 37, and you examine them and tell them that, madam, your eggs are finished. And then utter shock, because they've been having their menses every month. And they can't believe when you tell them your eggs are truly finished. Some people come and we measure it, it's a scale. And it's a blood test. And when we do the test, it tells us how many baby eggs you still have. And we want you to be ideally, preferably between 2 and 4. If you're between 2 and 4, we are happy. If you're above 4, it's like, it's a bit too much. The PCOS people get the 5s and the 6 and the 9s. If you are below 2, we are like, oh, you're running a bit low. If you're below 1, we are very concerned. And somebody can come, 36, 38, and she is 0.1 or 0.01. She's not yet 40. And you are supposed to be between 2 and 4. It should be part of our educational curriculum. I recently had a discussion with a lady who does school health. And we asked these questions as to, are you people educating them about these things? And she said to an extent, but the problem we are facing is that for those I think up to JSS, they teach them, the egg and the sperm and how to get pregnant and that kind of stuff. They don't teach them how to prioritize their fertility. Till JSS will say you are too young. But when they grow older and they get to the older years, we don't seem to have that part in our educational curriculum. And then, especially the university people, university students, diploma students, all those category of people, the tertiary level people are the ones who, like, you're getting your education, and soon after that you should be thinking about reproduction if you want to reproduce. That education is not there. And the question is, who is going to give that education en masse to people? But it's really important that they know that, hey, if you want to do something about this, this is how to do it, and you shouldn't take it for granted. Women should seek fertility evaluation long before they hit 35. By the time they are 35, they are in trouble. So waiting till you are 35 to be an assessment is like you're on the way to an accident and now you are come to say, what can I do to, it's late. You are far too late. A woman's, let me explain the journey to you. A woman is born with about 1 to 2 million eggs. But let's say by the time she gets to puberty, we have maybe like, let's say 1 million. But in her entire fertile life, that entire window, she's going to release 300 to 400 eggs. That's it. Every month, she'll be losing about 1,000 of the eggs that she has in storage. So your storage may be big at the beginning, but you're losing 1,000 every month, plus or minus. Every month. So every month you release 1 egg, but you lose 1,000. So basically you lose 1,001 every month. Now, as you are growing older, your money in your bank is reducing Because even if you have plenty of money, the numbers are, because every month you are taking out 1,000 cedis every month, your money is going to go down because no new money is coming in. A woman does not get new eggs. She does not make new eggs. What you have is what you have. The difference between you and the next woman is how fast are you losing yours compared to how fast she's losing hers. And some lose faster than others. So 20 years, 18 years you are losing. 20 you are losing. 25 you are losing. 30 you start losing more. But at 35 you start losing a lot. So the graph comes like this. When you're 35, then it goes 40. And that is the problem. That is the problem. So by the time a woman comes and she's 35, she's already falling off the cliff. A fertility assessment should have been done before 30. Look, there's a facility that's available to women where we encourage you to freeze your eggs. Initially, it was used for those who are having cancer treatment. Even when we say freeze your eggs, we want you to do it before 35. That should give you an idea. So if a woman waits till she's 35, I beg you, the best years have passed already. We should see her long before she is 35. I would say that if a woman intends to have a child, and by the age of 30, she hasn't had a child, she should see a specialist, a fertility specialist, to discuss her options. It doesn't necessarily mean that action will be taken immediately, but it's to discuss the options. Action can be taken at a later date when, the time reaches. But it's good for you to know that this is where you stand. And so you have time or you don't have time. Your chances are good or your chances are not good. You must remember, I mentioned one thing. The number of eggs are falling like this with age. However, the number of abnormal eggs are also rising like this. So it gets to a time where the number of abnormal eggs exceeds the number of normal eggs. So every month, maybe in a whole year, the number of eggs you produce are normal, maybe are like 3 or 4. The remaining 8 months, you produce abnormal eggs. So apart from your numbers dropping, your quality too is dropping. And your chance of being able to have a normal pregnancy is dropping. And that has not included uterine fibroids that comes with age. Uterine adhesions that come from surgical interventions. Infections that blocks tubes and scars the endometrium and makes it difficult for a pregnancy to implant. We haven't discussed all those. And all these increase with age. Age is the biggest enemy when it comes to having a child. So 35 is too late. Please, 30. Is that the mechanism by which it is done can damage the lining of the uterus. And that is even when it's done properly. You can do it properly, but the lining of the uterus can get damaged and it can get stuck together. And when the lining of the uterus gets stuck together, you may still be having your menses. But the entire space, instead of being an open space that the pregnancy can sit in, is now like this, with all kinds of stalactites and stalagmites inside. So the pregnancy doesn't get a good place to land. If the pregnancy lands on any of the adhesions, it won't grow. It's like you've planted corn on a pavement. It won't grow. And the end result is that you have difficulty getting pregnancies or, to an extent, certain miscarriages. But that is the problem. And that is where the abortions cause. And of course, there are other challenges. Some people have died out of it from excessive bleeding. You can get perforation of the uterus. Those are all additional problems. But it doesn't affect the eggs per se. Environmental toxins, as we live our lives, we are being exposed more and more to environmental toxins. We are hearing that microplastics can be found in almost every part of our body. Somebody did a dissection of the penis and found microplastics inside. So that essentially means that if microplastics are depositing in our various organs, those organ functions are being progressively impaired. So that is, one big problem. Then we have our current problem in this country where galamsey is polluting our waters. And the drinking water is now being severely affected. And because somebody is getting his money from galamsey and he has destroyed all his drinking water, my drinking water that I'm not getting the galamsey money from is also being affected. So we are all being affected everywhere because somebody wants to chop his money. But that polluted water contains heavy metals. And those heavy metals are damaging to our health and also cause you to have abnormal children. So it damages your health. It damages your reproductive system. It damages the egg and the sperm. And then results in abnormal babies that also don't survive or cause you to have problems. So our environmental toxin issue bad, getting progressively worse, and unfortunately, we may have a whole generation that are going to suffer problems for that until these things go. Because to get it back out of the system, 50 years, 100 years, there's going to be a whole generation that's going to be damaged by the choices that we made environmentally. And there are other things. Excessive alcohol use causes problems. Excessive smoking causes problems. Smoking of weed causes problems. And then you have to be careful with the medications that you use, because there are certain medications that are not particularly helpful towards your reproduction. There are certain conditions that if you are giving you treatment for, we actually say it may damage your reproductive system, and so we have to either save some eggs for you before we touch you, or know that this is the possible consequence about it. So that is, just one big bunch of stuff. Then we have things like stress. We live a very increasingly stressful life. People travel 2 hours to work and 3 hours back home. I think that is not living. But certain circumstances makes them live under those conditions. And it takes a while before you realize the fact that you don't need to live like that. But until that point, you will actually live under those circumstances. Spending 5 hours in traffic and smelling the exhaust of cars is not life. There's nothing healthy about it. It is damaging, it shortens your life. But that is the reality of some people's existence. Stressful circumstances where you are being persistently stressed at work, increased blood pressure, increased pulse, all kinds of conditions coming about. All that stress does not even allow you to have sex at the right time. So somebody is trying to have a baby, and because of stress, they are not even having enough sex. To have a baby, want you to have sex 3 times a week, every other day, basically, at the right time. That is our target. If you are not doing that, why do you expect to get pregnant? Because you are I describe it as being a non-performing asset. You are not doing what you've got to do. Pregnancies will have challenges. If you are traveling, if you have so much stress at work, then it affects every aspect of your life. You end up having quarrels that you don't need to have quarrels, and then intimacy becomes a problem. Even to have the discussion that we need to do other things because of our fertility, it becomes a problem. And I haven't mentioned in-laws issues and all those kinds of things. And people who are, one of them is living in Accra and the other one is working in Ho, and because of that, they don't meet all that often. And those who are those who are like, I'm going to to Europe or to America because some opportunity B has come, and then the woman is waiting for him and waiting and destroying her eggs all that period. All those are part of the things in our society that are contributing to us not having children at the right time, or difficulties in having children. I'm not too sure about the whole state of emergency business, because declaring a state of emergency does not necessarily mean that you are taking action. It is the state of emergency, then what? So let's just say that I think I'm more interested in what actions are you taking to ensure that this thing stops, knowing that this thing is bad. And what is our problem with galamsey? Our problem with galamsey is the destruction of the environment. not gold mining, at least in my mind. The gold mining is not the problem. It is when you are mining the gold, don't destroy the environment. And what we've had is that people are destroying the environment. Now, I don't understand, personally, how anybody can put anything on a river and be mining in the river and survive till tomorrow. Because the person should have been shot. That is me. Immediately, no, you are an environmental terrorist. You don't deserve to remain amongst us. But then there are things that we need to. It's a bit controversial. So things that we need. There are processes that we have to go through and things. But it is not possible for anybody to put something like that on a river with the authorities not knowing. It's impossible. It is impossible. Otherwise, they are not doing their job. So they shouldn't be in that post. But once it's on your river, you know about it. And you permitted it to continue. And that is where the problem is. It's a matter of, and unfortunately, our people say that when fish gets rotten, it gets rotten from the top. When action, they also say that when the elder person has had his bath, then the water is finished. That literally means that everything comes from the top. To solve this problem, it comes from the top. If there's an absolute and total ban that we don't want to see anybody on any river, and if we see you, we will shoot you. Nobody wants to die. You will get off that river. Then we can talk about the land people and the other issues. But they have no business being on the river. So that is problem one. The other part is, listen, we have authorities at the district level. We have police at the district level. We have a DMC at the district level. If the president announces today that from the first, if anybody is doing illegal mining in your community, your head will go. And you'll be prosecuted from being complicit or causing financial loss to the state or causing whatever law we can find to prosecute you for, we will. You will see that from the first, everything will stop. Because you don't have a choice. It is if you want to remain in your position, that person cannot put your life at risk. That person cannot put your life at risk. People have been doing galamsey for years. It was not an issue. But the introduction of heavy machinery and the pollution of the river is what has caused, of the water bodies, what has caused all these problems. The problem with a lot of these things is that we don't always ask that question. How will this affect the other aspects of my life? So they can give you a product that you think is going to help you. So let me give you an example. We give you skin lightening products, and it contains steroids. And you use it, it lightens your skin. You've achieved your objective. Your skin is lighter. You are more attractive, in your opinion. However, once you've done that, you have effectively suppressed your own body's ability to produce steroids. Those steroids are part of the pathway in your fertility. Once you've done that, you've affected your ability to have children. To a small extent, to a big extent, some people, maybe not yet. Some people have finished having their children, so you never see the effect that it is. But once you are on those kinds of things, you are affecting your body. Some things will not affect your fertility. Some things would. And I think it's really important that you have that discussion. And sometimes it's just a matter of we pick the bottle and we look at it and see what are the ingredients. But there are too many people who are using products that have no ingredients on it. You don't even, if you know the name, you can research the name. Oh, what is the name of this product or the material inside? But so many other things, you don't know what is inside. I'm using this soap to have my, what is inside? They just mix it for me. What is inside? We don't know. And yet we are using it. Because it makes your skin look whatever they told you that it makes it look. Delayed marriage, certainly in our society, we are encouraged to get married before we have children. And it's best to bring up a child in an environment where the child has both a father and a mother. And each person has to play his role. So in the fact that if you don't get married early, that definitely delays your ability to have a child early. Of course, there are those who have decided to take the lead and have children, but that's a different story. So that's one side of the story. Diet, we all eat a bit too much carbohydrate, honestly speaking. I always say this thing. My grandfather was a farmer, and he worked very hard and all day to provide for his family. And then he brought up my father. So the food my grandfather ate was appropriate for the work that he did. So if he has his large yam and contemporary or has his big fufu when he comes home in the evening, he's burnt so much calories that it kind of compensates, and the distance that he has to walk and all that kind of stuff. So he burns the calories that he eats. So my father ate the same kind of food, but my father is not a farmer. But that's the food he grew up eating. So he eats that food, and then he gives birth to me. I am also not a farmer, but my diet is a farmer's diet. And when I say a farmer's diet, as in a high-calorie diet, because his job required him to weed maybe an acre, and my job requires me to lift a pen. Our energy, consumption is not the same. He burns a lot more than I would, and he walks a lot more than I would. So if I'm eating the same diet as him, then we have a bit of a challenge, because then in excess, I would be the one who have the excess weight. And that's just one big problem that affects all of us. Then we have to add the special people, those with PCOS. But the PCOS is actually a metabolic disease, not a fertility disease. It's a metabolic disease because it affects more things than just fertility. Fertility is just one aspect of its manifestation. But with PCOS, you have a problem with how you handle sugar or carbohydrates. And the end result is that you have a problem that manifests in your fertility. One of the solutions for those people is to reduce the amount of carbohydrate they take. Because the less they take, the less the body has to handle. The less the body has to handle, the less the body has to struggle. And the consequence from that struggle is not there, and therefore their fertility improves. The same reason as in weight management as well, that for those people in particular, if they lose weight, their fertility improves, just because of the impact that weight has on your hormonal balance. Their ability to ovulate improves just because they've lost weight. So diet, environment, work, things that we do, it does play a role. Weight management is important in your fertility journey. If you are underweight, you don't ovulate. If you're overweight, you don't ovulate. We need to have the right balance. And that is part of the reason why, for some people, we tell them that you need to gain a little bit of weight for your hormones to be, to behave itself. And for some people, we tell them you need to lose weight. Because if you lose weight, you'll be able to ovulate better. And if you ovulate better, you'll be able to achieve a pregnancy. So we don't like too much or too little. Either way, it causes us harm and affects your fertility significantly. If you are training and you are giving supplements, I think you should just have a discussion with your doctor as to whether he thinks it's safe and appropriate. Some will be fine, some may not be fine, but that discussion would help. PCOS is an acronym for the word polycystic ovarian syndrome. Polycystic, that's the PC, O is the ovarian, and the S is syndrome. It's a condition where a woman has usually fertility issues. They have difficulty in getting pregnant, typically, not always. And when they come to the hospital, we discover that they may have irregular menses, they may have excess male hormones, in a manifestation of excess male hormones, and they have abnormal ovarian morphology when we do an ultrasound. So those are the three things we are basically looking for. Now, when we have all those things together, then we just say that you've got PCOS. The major problem for them is that they don't ovulate. So they don't release the egg that the sperm will meet to get pregnant. That's problem one. When they do ovulate and you succeed in getting them pregnant, they don't keep the pregnancy. So they lose pregnancies in the first 3 months very much. When they succeed in keeping the pregnancy, so you solve problem one, they solve problem two, where you succeed in keeping the pregnancy, and they pass 3 months, then around 5 months, they lose the pregnancy from a different cause again. And when they succeed in dodging the 5 months problem, then they are at risk of getting hypertension and gestational diabetes in pregnancy again. And after they deliver and they have the child, they are at a great risk of having diabetes later on in life. Like I said earlier, it's a metabolic condition, not a fertility condition. So the treatment, is approached in that manner. If you manage it metabolically, you get a better outcome. If you manage it for a fertility reason, you may get the patient pregnant, but then all the other problems are still waiting for you. And that essentially is what it is. It's a very common condition, and the treatment is available. That is my area of special interest. So everything we can do to find a solution, we find, and to help address the situation. PCOS it's a lot more common than you think. We can see evidence on it on your face. We can see evidence on it on your body. We can see evidence on it when we examine you and you do your hormones. And once we know that's what the problem is, we put you on the appropriate treatment and it gets better.
Is there age range for this?
No, it's something that you suffer. I mean, you had it when you were younger. We just didn't manifest. The manifestation you saw was when your menses started misbehaving, but not necessarily the fact that it wasn't there all the time. It is kind of by birth, yes. The defect you have is by birth. Endometriosis is a condition where the woman has her menses outside the uterus. So normally, this is the uterus, and this is the lining that produces the menses. With those women, part of this lining has left that area and is now outside the uterus here, or here, or here, or here. So when you have your menses here, you have your menses here, and here, and here, and here, outside the uterus. But it can go further than that. People have their menses, and they're having their menses inside here. For some people, inside their chest. And the craziest one we've heard, inside the eye. So, and then somebody else to inside the brain. That tissue migrates and goes to various areas, and then starts menstruating there. Now, those areas are not designed to have menses. So because they're having menses in the wrong places, it causes problems. In the pelvis, it tends to cause adhesions where the tubes get stuck together, and it also damages the ovary for the ovary not to be able to produce good quality eggs. The end result is that getting pregnant becomes very, very difficult, and because it affects quality of eggs, it affects number of eggs, it affects the tubes, and the environment that causes them to grow also is the kind of environment that makes fibroid to grow. So they all eat the same food. So you may end up with having plenty of fibroids in addition to this. So endometriosis, but they typically, not always, cause very painful periods. So if anybody has got very painful periods, it's important that they check them out for endometriosis. It's one of those things that, we are not very clear as to exactly what causes it. There are some theories that explain how the endometrium migrates from its current location to other places, but we are not too sure about it, the exact cause. That one, you see it later on in life. We are not convinced one way or another. There are suggestions as to the fact that you are predisposed to it. So if you have it, your sister too may have it, but you may also have a sister that doesn't have it at all. There is, let's put it away, some genetic predisposition, but we can't clearly tell you that it is this or it is that causes that. There are like 3 or 4 theories as to how it comes about. the apps are very useful. One of the first questions I ask when you come and see me is, when was your last period? And almost every woman goes to her phone and just checks and says, my period came on so and so date, because they are tracking their periods. So, and if I say I want to know your periods for the whole of this year, some of them will just go into the app and they can actually tell you that I put it in on these dates, and they can tell you fully when the periods were in the last year. It's quite helpful for us, because if I know your cycle, I can tell you when you ovulate. I'll tell you the best time you need to have sex. If I know your cycle, we kind of know the duration at which, how we are going to manage you if you are doing an artificial process for you. So it's really helpful. Not having the app can sometimes be challenging, because when you ask somebody who's your last period, some of them turn to their husband. The husband may have the answer, but if he doesn't have the answer, then we are in trouble, especially if she's not been recording it. So they are useful and they are helpful. And for those who are tracking their own ovulation and things of that sort, it's actually useful to know that, hey, this is around the time that I ovulate. Let me get busy around that time. I don't think men are often overlooked. The men account for half the fertility problem. So if you see a couple and they don't have children, half the time it's a man. Half the time it is the man. The woman carries, so because of that, she manifests the pregnancy. But the man is the one who contributes half of the gene that the baby has, but also contributes half of the problems. So if you see a woman who is pregnant and they're having, a woman is trying to get pregnant, they're having challenges, it may well be the man. There are men who have got for the sperm, what do we want? We want good numbers, we want good quality, and want freedom of the sperm to do this work. Some people have got poor numbers, so when you check, the numbers are too low. Some people have got poor quality, so the sperm don't move the way they should. Some people, the sperm look abnormal. So when you look at them, you know this is abnormal. It can make a woman pregnant. Some people, their sperm have got POP. We used to call in university something called POP, which is they don't have the ability to con a girl. The sperm are not able to penetrate the egg. So because of that, she is not able to fertilize. The sperm is not able to fertilize the egg, and therefore a pregnancy is not achieved. So these are all problems that we look at, and there are treatments that we can give and options that we can give for sperm. The thing about sperm that everybody must know is that it takes you about 74 days for your sperm to get a new batch of sperm. That means that when we give you medication, we see the effect of the medication in 74 days time, which is almost 3 months. And that's why we give you medication and say, we'll check you again in 3 months. That means if you stop taking your medication, you are setting us back 3 months or 6 months or 9 months. And men tend to stop taking their medication before time, because they want to see results now. I don't see results now, then no. It's a gradual process. Your cycle is 75 days. A woman's cycle is 30 days. I can change things in 30 days in a cycle. The man's cycle is 75. Take your time. Take your medicine. Do what you have to do. And let's get an improvement. Sperm is 3 months, minimum 6 months, sometimes 1 year. But if you take your medicine religiously and it's the right medicine and the impact is made in a year or 6 months, you may actually see an improvement. We've had patients that we give medication for and told them that it takes 6 months, and in 3 months the wife is pregnant because they responded very well. I had a patient who actually, after they delivered, called back and said, hey, I want to resume my medicine again. Next week calls, hey, doctor, she's pregnant again. So that was excellent news for us. It means everything had worked for him. But before that, they were struggling to have a child. The stigma issue is best managed by both of them. I've come to the conclusion that when it comes to infertility, you handle your relatives, I handle my relatives. My relatives will come and complain about you not giving me a child, I should block them. Your relatives will come about you not getting pregnant, you too block them. But if I block your mother, it will be an issue. You deal with yours, I deal with mine, and they leave us alone so that we can manage our problem. The biggest challenge comes when my relatives are misbehaving and I am not stopping them. Meanwhile, you know that the problem is from me. And you're protecting me, and I'm not protecting you. That is unacceptable. You know, and vice versa. I manage my people, you manage your people, and then we manage our problem. And if it works that, if you succeed in doing that, we wouldn't have most of these problems coming about. If I let my people know that it's a no-go area to come and stigmatize my spouse, then they will stop. But if they don't stop, it means I'll have nothing to do with them because they are causing me pain and suffering. And if they have any respect or value for you, they would listen. And if they don't have any respect or value for you, you have no business being with them anyway in the first place. So either way, you are still better off if you have nothing to do with them. So it's really important that both parties support each other in this journey. For if you are in certain societies, if you come to the hospital and you say you want to have a child, the first thing they test is the man. The first person they test is the man. Because it's easy to test you. The woman there are more painful things involved. But testing the man is very easy. And now we've got men who come to the clinic and say, hey, I think I may have a problem, so I need to come and be tested. And they come themselves to test. Or I need treatment, and they come and we give them treatment. And then we give them treatment, and sometimes they just go back very quickly, and the woman gets pregnant, and we are all happy. Then she gets pregnant again, and we are all happy. But the treatment has worked. They've gotten the outcomes that they wanted. So that is the good. When both are working together, it takes a man and a woman to have a child, and we shouldn't have the situation where it is like it is your fault, so you go to clinic, and so I think I'm fine. It doesn't. It's not helpful. I think as a woman, you can have it all. They can't have it all at the same time. And you need to evaluate yourself and decide which one works, which is your priority. And not only that, what is the window of opportunity for each priority? There are things you can do later in life. There are some things you cannot do later in life. So if you know how to solve some of these problems or answer these questions very early, before you actually get to the age of fertility or something of that sort, you will be able to actually address these things and it will all go away. The challenge that we are facing is that women are not consciously prioritizing their fertility. Let's put it this way. Your best window of opportunity to have a child is between 24 and 30. I'm using 24, not because 22 is not healthy, but I'm assuming that let's give you time to finish your first degree. But between 24 and 30 years is the time that's the easiest time to have a child. 24 and 30 years is also the easiest time to find a good husband. It's the easiest time to find a good husband. How many women are prioritizing that at that stage of their life? And instead, they are prioritizing other things. Now, here's what is interesting. The money you are chasing, if you are married to you have the right kind of husband, you don't need to chase for that money. He chases it, you chop it. The school that you want to go, if you are married to the right kind of husband, he pays the fees and does the homework too on top for you. So, it's really important that women need to they evaluate themselves, decide what their priorities are, and try and put them in place. And once you succeed in doing that, we shouldn't have a problem.